Welcome to Smart Brown Voices, your weekly podcast featuring diverse voices from around the world, giving you insights on how others made it big in their respective fields. Now sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready to be inspired. And don't forget to use hashtag #SmartBrownVoices to share insights, moments of wisdom, and things from the show that inspire you. And now, here's your host, social media nerd and technology activist, Mr. Mike Street.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mr. Mike Street, and we are back with another exciting edition of Smart Brown Voices. So first, I want to thank all of you guys who subscribe to us on iTunes, because as you know, if you've been following the show, we were recently featured as one of the top Black business podcasts to listen to on iTunes. So it's actually tripled the podcast downloads now. So thank you guys, all 3,000 of you who are listening now every month. It's super exciting for us because, you know, this show is a labor of love and we make no money from this show, but all of your support and everything else has been really amazing. So today's guest is a writer and author, and he has an exciting book that's about to come out. So David Lampel, introduce yourself to the Smart Brown Voices audience.
Hey, Smart Brown Voices. I'm glad to be speaking to you. My name is David Lampel. I'm a writer and a playwright producer, born and raised in New York City. And I recently had a play running off-Broadway for about more than 10 years entitled Platanos and Collard Greens. That's a romantic comedy that audiences came out and loved again and again. And I want to thank everybody for their support and encourage them to pick up my new book, On Top of the World.
So let's talk about Platanos and Collard Greens really quickly, because that's I feel like it's been running for so many years. I know I hear about it almost pretty much all the time. So tell us how you came up with the concept and, you know, how that's really taken off, because it's been around for, pretty much ever since I moved to New York City.
Well, you know, I grew up in New York. Like I said, I grew up in Astoria, Queens, and Astoria housing projects during the formation of hip-hop, and it was very much a combination of the Black and Latino cultures, especially Puerto Rican, in New York City. And I wound up going to Hunter College, and my last year there, I did an internship, and I was randomly assigned. I did an internship in the New York State government, and I was randomly assigned to work with a state assemblyman named Jose Serrano, who's a Puerto Rican. And the first day I walked in, I introduced myself, and he gave me a really strange look. And I was like, what did I say wrong? And finally he said, when I first came to this country, the first Black person I met was Ricky Lamb. And I'm like, yeah, that's my uncle. And it was totally a coincidence, completely. And I started asking myself, thinking about how long it is that, you know, Blacks and Latinos in New York have been interacting and living in the same communities. And asking myself, well, why is it that we can dance and party together, but we can't take care of business together? So I wanted to deal with that, and I thought that the best way to do that would be in a romantic story about two college students. And that's where the idea of Platanos and Collard Greens came from. And the first night the play actually performed was June 27th, 2003. And my wife and I had been married less than a year, and she was producing it with me, and we forgot to save ourselves seats to actually see the show. So we were standing outside the audience, listening with our ears to the door, waiting for the first laugh to come. And then the audience laughed, and then they laughed again, and they kept laughing, and they've been laughing since then. You know, we've been blessed to have audiences want to see it again and again.
So tell us about the success. Like, how long has the Platanos and Collard Greens been running, and how many productions have you been able to do of the show?
It's been running since June 27th, 2003, and it's traveled across the country, performed at hundreds of colleges and universities who bring us back again and again. And it's been performed off-Broadway in New York for about 12 years. And it's, again, from the business aspect, it was my wife and I. We were both working at different companies, and at the time, you know, we said we liked theater. I had written a book that I self-published entitled Do Platanos Go with Collard Greens? And when I would go speak at colleges, the students said, this would make a great play. And I said, yeah, that's true, but that sounds like too much work. But I was lucky enough to marry somebody not only better looking, but smarter than me. And she said, well, why don't we try it for one weekend? And so our original plan was to do the play for one weekend. We set up the company ourselves. She did a lot of background research on how to produce a Broadway showcase. We rented a small theater on 44th Street and 9th Avenue with mice running across stage. And, we figured out how to market it ourselves using postcards and posters primarily to reach the audience. And people came out. We had to figure out how to hire actors. Let me back up. We had to figure out how to hire actors, have auditions. My roommate from law school, Ashley, was the director, and it became a family operation that we planned on doing for one weekend. But the audience had, man.
Well, that's amazing. So you took it from a concept to a book and then to a full-on production that's been running for many, many years now. So talk to us about your new endeavor and your new book.
Right. Well, my new book is entitled On Top of the World, and it just won the Pacific Book Award for 2016.
Awesome. Congratulations.
So I'm very happy about that. And, I've been happy with the reviews. Talib Kweli, the music star, said that it was packed with so many laughs and so much heart that he couldn't put it down. And it's been described as a romantic comedy that perfectly combines humor and romance and a satire about race, class, and celebrity worship. So what the book opens with music's biggest star, who's hip-hop's biggest star, and it's a story about how he was the biggest nerd on his college campus. He was a foster kid. He was disliked until he met the love of his life, who transformed him in college and helped him discover himself and his pride in himself and release his talent that was always in him. And he blows up, and once he blows up, she realizes too late that she's created a top charting monster. And it's a reimagination of the story of Scrooge. As I asked myself, if Scrooge were alive today, what would he look like? And my answer was he'd be young, black, handsome, with musical talent coming out the wazoo. And the idea came to me when I was watching Occupy Wall Street, and I saw that they took Jay-Z and made him the symbol of the 1%. And I'm like, well, how is it that that a black boy from Marcy Project could be the symbol of the 1% when we got all of these rich white Wall Streeters ripping people off? And so I wanted to write about that. And it's like Platonos in that it's very much romantic comedy. You will laugh again and again and again. I can guarantee that. But underneath the laughter is a political story about race and class and celebrity worship. It's really good. I'm happy with it.
So is it going to be visited by any spirits or ghosts during the story?
Oh yeah. And I'm black. I'm of African descent, so we put a black African spin on it and a twist. One of the ghosts is the Queen of Sheba, and he says she's indeed black and beautiful. And he gets visited, and he has to. The question is he a hero or a villain? Which is a question we ask about hip hop. On the one hand, it's made black people a lot of money. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it's promoted stereotypes that go back to slavery. One of the things that made people like Platonos was that it was very timely. I always was able to incorporate the issues of the day. And I was shocked recently when the controversy about Kanye and the multiracial model controversy and not want to have any black girls in his video he's accused of. And I was laughing because that's one of the things that happens in the book. The artist decides to have a paper bag test. So in order to be in his videos, you can't be darker than a paper bag.
Cool. So do you feel like this book might translate into your next, stage production?
Yes, yeah, that's the plan. Just like Patino, release it as a book and let people get familiar with it in that context, and then we're going to mount it as a stage production, with the goal of making people laugh, making them think, and inspiring them to believe in the power of love and make a change in their own lives.
So you've conquered literature and the stage. Do you feel like any of your productions are going to be either turned into a movie, or maybe, especially since now we're in a huge TV renaissance, and I feel like a lot of your content, it could be really perfect for, being the next Empire or something like that. So do you have any aspirations for kind of moving some of your content into the TV phase?
Yeah, we were recently, negotiating with someone about TV program based on Platinos.
Mm-hmm.
The deal wasn't really that good, and I went to a famous lawyer out in Hollywood to let him look at it, and he said, he laughed and said, well, it's not the worst deal in history, it's just the second worst. So, when you're from the East Coast, people, for whatever reason, think they can just offer you anything. So, yes, I would like to do that. I'd just like to do it in a way where I'm not being ripped off that badly. But hopefully that will come. That would definitely be one of the goals.
And so if you could cast your fantasy cast to play in Plantanos and Collard Greens, who would be some of the actors that you would want to see in it?
Oh, okay. Well, for the role of Pops, we've always thought about Cedric the Entertainer. I think he has more depth than he's been allowed to show, but he could still have a comedic stroke to it. I think that would be really good. For the role of the mother, it would be Rita Moreno. For the sidekick would be a Kevin Hart type personality, but younger, obviously, since they're in college. And the leading black male, I have to about that. I have to come up with a young brother. The guy from Creed, if he could play a college student, certainly. And a young, beautiful sister to play the role of his African-American love interest. I have to think. There's a lot of different people out there that I have for that. And we probably have to find a new Latina person because there's really not that many Latinas breaking through on the screen like that. So we find somebody new. But those would be some of the people I see.
Gotcha. Well, David Lamb, thank you so much for being on this episode of Smart Brown Voices. We're actually going to be attending your book launch. So we look forward to meeting you in person, and I think we should do maybe some Facebook Live video together so people can get to learn a little bit more at the event.
That would be great. That would be fantastic. I'd just like to tell people where they could reach me.
Awesome. Yeah, give us all your social media.
Yeah, on Twitter, at author David Lamb, and my website is David Lamb, Lamb, like Mary had, davidlamb.club. And the book is on sale on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kobo and iBooks, and it's On Top of the World by David Lamb.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to link to all of those things in our show notes so everyone can check it out and follow you and all of that good stuff. So we'll see you at your launch event, and everybody look out for the second part of this because we're going to be live from this event, and we'll have more from Smart Brown Voices coming soon. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to Smart Brown Voices with your host, Mr. Mike Street. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts, and make sure to follow us on social media. This has been a Mr. Mike Street production. Join us next time for another edition of Smart Brown Voices, and be inspired.